Hello, everyone. My name is Rebecca Whitman. I am author of the book, How to Make a Six-Figure Income Working Part-Time, and host of the Balanced, Beautiful, and Abundant show. I call myself the Magnetic Abundance Mentor. And on my episode for the Business Growth Architect show, I will reveal how the 7 pillars of abundance can empower you to go from burned out and overwhelmed to balanced, beautiful, and abundant.
And hello, fabulous person. Beate Gillette here. I am the host of the Business Growth Architect Show, and I want to welcome you to today's episode where we discuss how to navigate strategy and spirituality to achieve time and financial freedom. Truly successful people have learned how to master both a clear intention and a strategy to execute that in a spiritual practice that will help them to stay in alignment and on purpose. Please enjoy the show and listen to what our guest today has to say about this very topic. Welcome back. This is your host, Beate Gillette. Today we're talking with Rebecca Whitman from Balanced, Beautiful, and Abundant, and who does not want to be all three? Rebecca, I'm so excited to have you on the show. Welcome.
So great to be here.
For somebody who does not know what you do or has never heard of you, will you tell us a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do?
Absolutely. I am a coach. I empower women to go from burned out and overwhelmed to balanced, beautiful, and abundant. And this is something I never thought I would be doing. I am completely shocked and blown away that USA Today said I was a top 5 entrepreneur to watch in 2024 because I moved to LA 23 years ago to pursue acting. And I had small parts on really big shows like Friends, CSI, and 24. And while I was acting, I was waiting for that big break, which never happened, by the way. And I fell into the children's acting school business. And I really enjoyed working with kids because I don't have any of my own. And while the kids were off at school, I would study with great spiritual teachers like Michael Beckwith, Esther Hicks, Marianne Williamson, Louise Hay, Wayne Dyer. And I started applying the law of attraction to my job at the kids' acting school. And before I knew it, I was making 6 figures. I didn't apply it as successfully to my love life. And I had the habit of picking emotionally unavailable narcissistic men. I married one, hoping he would change. And we all know how that story ends. He did not. 3 years later, I filed for divorce. And as my marriage was slowly and painfully unraveling, my dad was slowly and painfully declining in a nursing home. And I would go back and forth from Cincinnati, Ohio to LA, never knowing which conversation with my dad would be my last. And in one of our last conversations, he asked if I would write a book. I had no idea what I was going to write about. A few months later, I had lost my dad. My marriage had been dissolved, and I was sitting across the desk from my financial planner. And he said, Rebecca, even though you lost your dad in your marriage, you had your best financial year ever. And I think you should teach women how you were so resilient. So I wrote a book called How to Make a Six-Figure Income Working Part-Time. And in the book, I divide life into 7 key areas, which I call my 7 pillars of abundance. And when you have all 7 pillars of life in alignment, you can be, do, or have anything you want. So now I'm happily married to my soulmate, and I am empowering women to be balanced, beautiful, and abundant. And it's been an amazing journey.
You are also the hostess of a phenomenal podcast.
Which you were a phenomenal guest on. You
Thank you.
crushed your interview.
So what I find very interesting about it, so the podcast, the Business Growth Architect Show, talks about strategy and spirituality. And you kind of like the personification of both. So you start out with a strategy and then you develop spirituality and then the business takes off. What role does your spiritual development play in the success that you created for yourself and in how you teach?
Well, spirituality is the first pillar of abundance. So the pillars are in order of importance: spirituality, health, emotions, romance, mental, social, and financial. So spirituality is the foundation of a happy life. I am a huge believer in setting up your day by connecting to the divine, whatever that is for you, with a morning practice. Journaling has been one of my biggest tools. When I was a teenager, I was at a 12-step meeting. And yes, I did struggle with addiction. I met a woman named Janet, and she gave me this incredible God journal, she called it. And what it was some life changing journal prompts, which I started writing in every single day, answering these questions. I've added a few of my own through the years. And now I call it my daily abundance journal. And these questions really help me connect to my higher power, which I choose to call God, and they help me reframe my day from negative to positive, from fear to faith, from scarcity to abundance. And setting up my day with this writing practice has really given me a foundation to get through the hard times, like a divorce, like losing a parent, um, struggling in my business to get it off the ground. A lot of businesses in their first 3 to 5 years are really a struggle and a push to get off the ground. And yeah, I'm actually stay till the end of the episode because I'm going to share that gift, that abundance journal with your listeners. But spirituality carries you through the hard times because life can be a roller coaster, and you want to have something that keeps you steady, having faith throughout the whole roller coaster.
What fascinates me about this is you say it's the first pillar. Now, what would you say to somebody, and I know a lot of our listeners are in that spot, that go, I've experienced the whiplash, I've been promised things in COVID, it didn't happen, then I thought I figured it out, the market changed, I had to refigure it out, the market changed, I had to refigure it out, now the market is changing again, I'm refiguring it, I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm worn out. Is this even worth it? How can you help people to figure out how to tap into this first and most important pillar?
The market has been changing. A lot of people started their own business since COVID, so it's a lot more competitive. The algorithms are changing. It is changing. So, in order to sustain your business, your health, spirituality is so important because there's only two things you need to know about a higher power. One is that there is one, and two is that it's not you. I am a recovering atheist, a recovering control freak. I used to try to control every facet of life, and I would end up completely exhausted, overwhelmed, and burned out because there's so many facets of life that are beyond our control. So I like to teach my clients that you are in the action business, and God, whatever that is to you, spirit, nature, the universe, is in the results business. You can take all the action in the world, but then ultimately you want to surrender and let the results be up to the divine, because we can only do the action. We don't know if we do a new offer or a new launch, or if we do a pivot, we don't know how it's going to land with the audience, or if it's going to attract clients, or if they're willing to pay our fees. So it's so important to fall in love with the process and fall in love with the action. And you're probably saying, yeah, that sounds great, Rebecca, but I have bills to pay. I don't want to be so like woo woo that I don't even pay my bills. And I say, absolutely, you do want to pay your bills. So have multiple streams of income. If you need to go back and get a job, do that. I don't have any judgment about that. That's kind of what sets me apart from a lot of other business coaches. A lot of business coaches, especially spiritual ones, will say, oh, max out your credit cards, have faith. You got to burn the boats to take the island, and just have this like magical faith that it's all going to work out. But I'm way more practical than that. I believe if you are struggling to pay your bills, get a job, have your health insurance, have your bills paid, and then do your business as a side hustle, and do it because you're passionate about it, not because you're in survival mode. Because when we're doing business out of desperation, not contribution, then that repels customers.
That is so powerfully said. And, to your point, Abraham Hicks calls it the one source. She refers to it as you have control over two things, is the asking and the receiving, but you're not responsible for the sourcing. Sourcing is up to one source, which I I think is a really powerful reminder, because if we would be responsible for the sourcing, we'd get only half of it and it would be incomplete and not as powerful. So for somebody who is a control freak like me, like formerly you, who has a hard time surrendering,
Yeah.
how do we how do we really step into the surrender? How do we let go of, people call it the ego death and people call it all kinds of things. And I want to be clear, everybody's listening, you certainly do have a choice. You certainly can keep going in the burnout formula if that is what you choose to do. But you need to be cognizant that if you don't lean into a bigger power, the spirituality, that your results either may just be monetary, or they may not be living up to your own expectations because you're not in alignment. So how do you work with your clients and have them understand the concept of surrender without them feeling defeated? Because I think that that's a lot of the emotion that sometimes people experience, but maybe it's the rock bottom feeling. It's like an alcoholic has to hit rock bottom, like an addict has to hit rock bottom for everything to fall apart, for it to get back together. But can we tell people that they don't have to hit rock bottom, that they can surrender before everything goes to pieces?
Sometimes you do need to hit rock bottom. I mean, I used to say that the only things I surrender have claw marks in them because I am a recovering control freak. Now I've learned to surrender before I fall into a rock bottom or, an endless, abyss of pain, because I know that I can only do the actions. And like I said, the results are up to my higher power. So if you want to do the hustle culture and work yourself to the grindstone and mentally worry about things that you have no control over, then that's your choice. I have trained my mind to let go and actually enjoy the curiosity of not knowing what the results are going to be. One of my spiritual teachers said, have an attitude of curiosity rather than expectation. And that's a good distinction and letting go. Having like, I wonder what's going to happen this time, and sit back and watch the movie of my business. And I wonder how this offer is going to go over. And I wonder what's going to happen this quarter. But again, I'm not one of these spiritual entrepreneurs that says just, stay at home on your meditation cushion and visualize success. That is part of it, but you do want to take the action. But I love that you quoted Abraham Hicks. They're one of my favorite spiritual teachers. And you also mentioned that even if you achieve success, you could be unhappy. So, what Abraham Hicks says is you can't have a happy ending to an unhappy journey. So, my question for your audience is how can you be happy in the process? And one of the ways you can do that is to remove the label of failure. What would you do if you knew you could not fail? Because there is no failure, Beate. You either win or you learn. And failure is just getting information. So I tell people fail fast and fail forward. Because if you're failing, that means you're at least in action. You're not at home listening to, a million, summits and workshops and analysis paralysis. Sometimes the best way to learn is to do, and to do is to fail. And we don't have to be so scared of it. As a recovering perfectionist, I used to want to be perfect, and I would prevent myself from failing, and I didn't get results as fast as I could have. So I would tell everyone just fail fast and fail forward. And what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail?
I love that. And we'll be right back. We'll talk more about your other pillars of abundance in just one moment. Have you ever wondered what the actual amount of your true earning potential is in this market? To find out what your talent is worth, take our quiz at whatsyourtalentworth.com. You will find out your actual earning potential amount by using our proprietary profit formula. Enjoy the quiz, and again, the URL is whatsyourtalentworth.com. Welcome back. Beate here and Rebecca talking about your 7 pillars of abundance. So we did the first one, spirituality. So take us through the order of importance of the next one.
Sure. The second one is health. It is so important to prioritize your health because health is wealth. And if we don't prioritize our health, and if we work, and hustle and get exhausted, we could get sick, and then we won't be able to enjoy our health. You could make $1 million a month, and if you're in a hospital or if you're in a bed and you can't get out to enjoy your life, what good is the money? So I tell my clients to prioritize their health. I believe in something I call H&M. It's not the discount clothing store. H is hydration, N is nutrition, M is movement and meditation. And those are ways to activate this pillar of life.
Excellent. And let's move on to the next one, the third
The
one.
next pillar is emotional. And I believe that all emotions are scarcity or abundance based. If you think there's not enough of whatever it is you want, there's not enough love, there's not enough money, there's not enough time, I don't have enough energy, I'm exhausted. These are all scarcity conversations. So you want to switch to abundance. There's plenty of time, there's plenty of money, I have plenty of energy, there's plenty of love, there's plenty of clients. This is a practice. My abundance journal is going to help you do this, but it's just a discipline. And when you catch yourself in scarcity, you want to pause your brain, literally picture those two lines, and think of an affirmation like all things are working together for my highest good. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Things always work out for me. Things are working out better than I can even imagine. So that is a great way to shift. Another way to shift from scarcity to abundance is through writing a gratitude list.
I like that a lot. So when your mind goes into that overdrive of panic, fear, or just simple lack of everything, catch yourself and have mantras ready so that the mantras can bring you back to your true self, which is the expectation of something positive. I was looking at this book from Atasha Silver, which I highly recommend. And she has these flashcards with prayers and with divine little sayings on it. And so I pull one out every day and I put it on my desk so that I remind myself to stay in that vibration every single day, because it's so easy to say, I have so much to do. I am so busy. I never get anything done. But when we are overwhelmed, we don't get as much done because we are absolutely overwhelmed. And when we are not overwhelmed, then we get a lot more done magically in a much shorter amount of time. So I think it kind of like all goes hand in hand to what you just said. So let's move on to the next pillar of abundance. What's the fourth one?
The fourth one is romance, and this affects all the other pillars. When we're in a toxic, painful relationship, then we are not going to feel as healthy. We're not going to make as much money. We're not going to, feel as connected to our higher power. It is so important. I tell my clients it's better to be alone than in bad company, and it's so important to walk away from toxic romance. And eventually, I teach them how to meet their soulmate. That's one of my courses, How to Manifest Your Soulmate in Midlife. But the first thing is to extricate yourself from a toxic relationship. And how do you know it's toxic? How do you feel when you're walking away from this person? Do you feel drained? Do you feel exhausted? Do you feel diminished? Do you feel like you're constantly having to defend yourself and prove yourself and earn this person's love and convince them to be with you? Do they call you names? These are all signs of a toxic relationship.
And I do agree with you that Marianne Williamson says all relationships fail until the one that doesn't. And I always thought that was a really profound way to put it, because people go like, well, this is better than nothing. And at least I know what I have. But I believe that it's better to be in love with yourself. And everybody says it's like so easy, right? It's hard to be okay with who you are. And once you have that figured out, then it becomes really easy. So how do you start so you give us some pointers, like, I know that I am in a bad relationship, I feel drained, if I have to defend myself, I feel critiqued, if I cry, if I feel like I'm misunderstood. You shifted this into knowing that your right partner was out there. How did you do that?
I had to first get out of my toxic marriage. And to go back to our first point about surrender, I had so many bad dates after that marriage. I was on 5 dating apps. I hired a high end matchmaker. And I said, I'm just going to do a 90-day dating detox for the first time in my life because I've always been romance obsessed ever since I was a grade school girl. I'm just not even going to think about men. I'm not going to talk to men. I'm just going to focus on my book launch because that's when my book came out. And I went to a party thrown by the owner of my gym, a backyard party. I invited everyone at the party to my book launch the following weekend. And Ben, my now husband, showed up with a book and he asked me to sign it at a dinner date. That was 6 weeks into a 90-day dating detox. So I would get so annoyed when people would say, oh, well, you find love when you're not even looking for it. And I'd be like, how do you not look for love? Like, that is one of the joys of being a human. But when I made a deliberate decision to kind of reset and recalibrate, I thought my picker was broken. I was picking the wrong guys and I was going to just take a break. And that's when I met my soulmate. But I had also done a lot of studying and work about masculine and feminine energy and dating and different, male and female dynamics and communication styles. I had also done a lot of work, and that's why I teach that course, how to manifest your soulmate in midlife. It's kind of everything that I studied over the years and what actually worked with my current husband, Ben.
I love that. I love that. Yeah. And what role did that play for you? Did you have to discover the feminine divine in you?
I did. I didn't even know there was such a thing as masculine and feminine energy. I was just part of the hustle culture of, do. I went to an Ivy League school. I was a nationally ranked tennis player. Like, I didn't even know what feminine energy was. And I had to study it and realize that at work, everyone is in their masculine. Everybody is wanting to achieve results. But when work is over and in my personal life, I get to be in my feminine, which means I get to be receptive, available, respectful. I don't have to earn love. I'm lovable because I exist. And I get to just, if I want to be feminine, a masculine man gets to lead the romance and we go at his pace, not mine.
But I love that. And you really have this just beautiful femininity about you. And even though we are talking business and all this, but it's very clear that you're a very feminine woman. And I admire that because I personally know, not just from myself, mostly from myself, but also with a lot of the women I work with, that that is a challenge for women in general, especially those that have high expectations of themselves, and society has high expectations of us, and we want to get it all done. Like, how do you do the both? So kudos to you for doing that. Let's move on to our next pillar of abundance.
The next pillar is mental. And that is just learning. You guys are doing the mental pillar, listening to this awesome podcast, The Growth Architect. And you can listen to podcasts, you can listen to Audible, you can take a class, learn a new skill, learn a new recipe, learn a new sport. It just means continuing to grow your mind in a positive way. Our mind is like a muscle, and when we stop learning, our mind atrophies, yet only 5%. And this is a quote from the book Think and Grow Rich, the first self help book ever written by Napoleon Hill in 1935. After our formal education ends, only 5% of the people are willing to invest time and money in their own personal growth and development. So, everybody who's listening, you guys are in the top 5%. Congratulations. And yeah, keep learning, keep growing. And I tell my clients to do this in the nooks and crannies of their day as they're waking up, as they're getting ready, as they're doing the cooking or the cleaning or the walking of the dog or the driving. You can be listening to awesome podcasts like this one or Audible or YouTube and keep growing your mind and learning new things.
I I agree with you, and it's something that I've trained myself to do when I go in my car. As much as I love music, I was listening to the Four Agreements
Great. Love that
because
book.
that's 15 minutes I have. That's one of the agreements right there on the Audible book. And when I go hiking, I typically, because the repetitiveness of the hiking, of the movement, really keeps my brain open. But I believe that you do need to, I think there's a saying, Rebecca, that says, who becomes of you in 5 years is depending on the people you meet and the books you read.
Yeah, I love that quote. And I don't have a lot of bandwidth for reading because this is a very busy season. I'm in business building mode. I don't read a lot, but I do listen a lot. And I've become a very avid listener of podcasts and Audible, and I've grown a lot just through my listening practice.
I love that. And then I think we have one more pillar of abundance.
We have two more. We
Oh,
have
two more. Go
social.
ahead.
Social. Your community builds your immunity, and we're in an epidemic right now of loneliness. People are very isolated. They're working at home. They're not seeing people. There's a lot of suicide and depression and anxiety. And the internet was supposed to connect everyone, but people are hiding behind their devices. So it's important to find a community, whether it's a church, a temple, a yoga class, a hiking group, a dog park, anything where you can be around other like minded people and have conversations. So that is the sixth pillar. And then finally, the seventh pillar is financial. And everybody thinks when they hear abundance that that means money. And they think, oh, I'm going to put all my effort and energy into making a ton of money, and I'm just going to work 60 to 80 hours a week. And then when I'm making a ton of money, I'll have enough money to afford a personal trainer. He or she will get me into shape. I'll look really hot. I'll attract my soulmate. We'll go on spiritual retreats. We're socialized with other couples, and I'll live happily ever after. But in my, yeah, ta-da, in my experience, I tried that in my 20s where all I did was work, work, work 60 hours a week, and I became unhealthy, depressed, I burned out. So I learned from my own experience to prioritize the other six pillars. I'm not saying that most of my time right now doesn't go toward my businesses and making money, but it's not the only thing that I do because I want to have that balanced, beautiful, and abundant life and have a full life in all seven areas. I don't believe we have to wait until we're retired, till we're 65. We can have a full life today.
So powerful. And I think that the one of the things that I'm really hearing from you is you can't wait. You cannot wait. You need to prioritize what matters in the journey today. And we logically know. So if we logically know, and this is my last question before we then ask how you are going to, how you can help our audience. If I know, if I know mentally that I am needing to be doing this, but I'm still caught in my old behavior pattern, what's your number one advice you give your clients to break the habit? Is it trust, surrender, believe? Like how do I throw a wrench into my own behavior pattern?
That is a great question. I teach a framework called the 4 A's. The first A is to be aware of the behavior pattern. So, for example, let's say your behavior pattern is, that after 8 o'clock, you want to like watch reality TV and eat ice cream. Okay. So be aware that that's what you're doing. So many people don't even know what they're doing. They just numb out on the TV and the ice cream. So that's the first A, awareness. The second A is acceptance. Do not judge yourself for wanting to, watch Netflix and numb out to ice cream. Do not judge, love, and accept yourself for exactly where you're at. The third A is to take a different action. So if you want to stop eating the ice cream and watching Netflix every night, take a different action. Go on a walk. Stop buying the ice cream. Give all the ice cream in your freezer to a neighbor. Like, do something different. And then the fourth A is affirmation. So, what is an affirmation that is the opposite of your old pattern? The old pattern is, well, I worked hard all day. I deserve to watch Netflix and just numb out to ice cream. So what would another affirmation be is, I deserve to have, a healthy, energetic body. Something that would be the opposite. So those are the 4 A's. So you could apply that to workaholism, food addiction, unhealthy relationships, any behavior that you want to change. You have an old story, an old pattern that's no longer serving you, and you are aware of it, you accept it, take a different action and come up with an affirmation that will interrupt your mind. Because every time it goes down that old neural pathway, you want to reroute it and create a new pathway in your brain.
So it's almost like giving awareness to what you do, and then breaking the pattern by literally just doing something different. I remember when I first started to do spiritual work, I would, when I caught myself with a really bad thought, I'll visualize taking that thought like on a Mac computer, dragging it in the trash, and then emptying the trash. And
I
then you
love
have to
that.
replace it with a different thought, though,
Yes.
because it's not true. I'm going to throw this away. My time is now. Something good is already happening. And keep training yourself in this particular mindset. Rebecca, I could talk to you forever about this. I really appreciate the clarity and the specifics that you've given us today on how to take these steps, because I think people kind of know and they don't really want to do it, or they kind of know and they kind of want to do it, but they don't know how to start. I think you've given them some very specific steps today. So I'm very grateful for that. So somebody who says, give me more of Rebecca, where do we send them?
Well, thank you so much for having me on your show. I would love to gift your listeners with this abundance journal, which is the number one tool to me having the balanced, beautiful, and abundant life. And I will promise your listeners, if they write in this every day for 10 days, you will have a shift, a breakthrough, or a miracle. So you can get that by clicking the link tree that Beate is going to share in the show notes. I also can be found on my website, RebeccaElizabethWhitman.com, Instagram at Rebecca E. Whitman, LinkedIn and Facebook, Rebecca Whitman. And I also wanted to offer the listeners a special promo code on my Balanced, Beautiful, and Abundant retreat, where we're going to be doing a deep dive into these 7 pillars, giving you tips, tools, and strategies to get all 7 areas of life to a level 10. It's going to be October 3rd through 6th in Belize at a luxury spa and resort. So it's going to be yoga, sound bath, mindset work in these 7 pillars, and it's going to be just an amazing way to go into the 4th quarter of 2024 with momentum so you can start 2025 with this framework of all these 7 areas. You'll have customized affirmations, and it's just going to be an amazing retreat. So I hope to see some of you in Belize.
I love that. Thank you so much. And that's it for us for today. Rebecca, again, thank you. And thank you all for listening and watching. Please make sure that you help us grow the podcast and share this episode with one other person that needs to hear what we talked about today. And what we talked about today is about how do you step into balanced, beautiful, and abundant with a clear 7-step plan, the 7 pillars of abundance. And start with one. Start with one that is right for you at where you are at right now. And that's it for us for today. Thank you again. This is your host, Beate Gillette, and goodbye. So appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for listening to the entire episode. Please subscribe to the podcast, give us a 5-star review, a comment, and share this episode with one more person so that you can help us help more people. Thank you again. Until next time. Goodbye.